Picture ancient humans reaching for red ochre for one reason: to paint their bodies. A splash of color, a symbol, a decoration. That is only a small part of the real story. Red ochre, a natural iron-rich pigment found in rocky outcrops across the ancient world, may be one of the most versatile substances early humans ever discovered. It shows up at archaeological sites going back over 100,000 years, on nearly every continent humans reached. And the deeper researchers dig, the clearer it becomes that ochre was not primarily about looking good. It was about surviving. Start with the least glamorous use: glue. Making a working spear or axe required attaching a sharp stone point to a wooden handle, a process called hafting. This is harder than it sounds. Stone does not naturally stick to wood. Ancient toolmakers needed an adhesive strong enough to survive the shock of a hunt, but not so brittle that it shattered on impact. Researcher Lynn Wadley, who has spent years studying ancient adhesive technology at sites like Sibutu Cave in South Africa, found that early humans created compound glues by mixing red ochre with plant resin and sometimes other binding agents. The ochre was not just filler. Its mineral properties changed the texture of the mixture, making it more workable and durable, functioning much like a modern epoxy. Producing this glue required multiple steps performed in a specific order, evidence of planning and technical knowledge passed down deliberately, not stumbled into by accident. So before ochre meant anything symbolic, it may have meant one thing: a functioning weapon. The second use targeted an entirely different problem: hides. Turning an animal skin into usable, long-lasting leather required treating it so it did not stiffen, rot, or crack. Ochre appears to have played a role here as well. Its mineral composition may have helped preserve hides during tanning, and some researchers argue it could have reduced bacterial growth on skins being processed, extending how long a hide remained usable. In a world where clothing and shelter meant the difference between surviving winter and not, a material that helped hides last longer was not a luxury. It was infrastructure. The third use is more physical and more directly tied to the human body itself. Some researchers have proposed that ochre may have functioned as an early form of sun protection. Iron oxide has natural properties that can help block ultraviolet light, similar in concept to modern mineral sunscreens, and populations living in intensely sun-exposed environments may have applied ochre to the skin partly for this reason. Other researchers have suggested a possible role in repelling insects, since some ochre mixtures may have had properties that made skin less appealing to biting pests. Neither use is fully proven, but both remain active areas of research, and neither requires any symbolic motivation at all. This is where the story starts to genuinely complicate itself, and where the real twist lives. For decades, the presence of ochre at a site was treated by many as automatic evidence of symbolic behavior: body painting, ritual, or early art. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood and his team uncovered engraved pieces of ochre dating back roughly 100,000 years, along with a processing workshop containing ochre-stained tools used to prepare a liquid pigment mixture. This is widely considered strong evidence of early symbolic thought, since the deliberate engraving pattern serves no obvious practical function. But here is the honest complication. Not every piece of ochre found at a site can be assumed to carry symbolic weight. Ochre used to hold a spearhead together, or to treat a hide, leaves behind physical residue that can look similar to ochre used for body decoration. Archaeologists increasingly emphasize the need for careful, case-by-case analysis, examining where patterns, mixing residues, and context, rather than assuming every trace of red pigment automatically points to ritual or artistic intent. Some ochre finds are almost certainly symbolic. Others were probably just practical. Many sit somewhere frustratingly in between, and researchers openly disagree about how to interpret them. This uncertainty is not a failure of the research. It reflects something true about ochre itself. It was never used for just one purpose. The clearest evidence for a symbolic role comes from burial contexts. At sites like Kafza Cave in Israel and Sungur in Russia, ochre has been found scattered directly over human remains, sometimes in significant quantities, in ways that appear deliberate rather than incidental. Covering a body in red pigment before burial does not glue anything, does not tan any hide, and does not protect any living skin from the sun. In these specific contexts, ochre increasingly appears to carry meaning beyond the practical, whether tied to grief, ritual, status, or belief systems that left no other trace behind. So the full picture of red ochre looks less like a single simple answer, and more like a substance that quietly threaded through nearly every part of ancient life. A workshop material holding weapons together. A preservative extending the life of clothing and shelter. A possible layer of protection against sun and insects. And in specific, deliberate contexts, a substance carrying weight far beyond the practical, laid gently over the bodies of the dead. Return to that opening image. Ancient humans reaching for red ochre purely to paint their bodies. Replace it with the fuller truth. A toolmaker carefully mixing ochre into a batch of adhesive strong enough to survive a hunt. A hide worker rubbing ochre into a fresh skin to help it last through winter. A community, thousands of years later, kneeling beside someone they loved, scattering the same red mineral gently across a body they were preparing to lay to rest. One substance, an entire range of human needs, both immediate and profound, woven together in a single unassuming red stone.